All right, Amanda, I've been looking forward to this for a bit since you said yes to doing a show. So I really appreciate you coming on today. I
Yeah.
look forward to having you on.
Thanks for having me. Is this close enough to you? Sorry.
A bit closer, but yeah.
There we go. Make sure everyone can hear me.
I kind of go like a fist from my face, whatever
Okay.
way makes
Sounds
a
good.
difference. But
Yeah.
so yeah, take us through kind of your life leaving from like post-secondary to kind of where we are now. We can go career and then we can go athletics as well. We can kind of find a way to merge them together and go back
Okay.
to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I took in university. I took sports psychology. It kind of mixes my athletics
Yeah.
and career. That was kind of a thought that I wanted to be a sports psychologist. Getting into it, realizing I just really loved sports psychology. It wasn't what I wanted to do as a career.
Right.
So then kind of got to a point where, what am I going to do? My dad was an insurance broker for 40 years, so he said, "You're an insurance broker now."
Sick.
So I was like, okay, guess following in the old man's footsteps, I'll do that. So picked up that career, worked in insurance for about 12 years or so, and then got the opportunity I have now, and now I'm a coordinator of a youth wellness hub.
Epic. Epic.
Yeah.
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 So with that, take us back a bit more. So I kind of got first introduced to you. I think it was there was mutual friends, and then there was I know I did a speech at the Youth Wellness Hub as well, and you just happened to not be there that day.
Yeah, I know, I missed it.
Unfortunate. Yeah, we were talking about that a while ago. Frustrating, but I'll get over it. I'll get through it. I was
I
like,
miss a
oh
lot of
damn, I
stuff.
could have.
I miss a lot of
So
stuff.
that's okay. So anyways, take us through kind of your journey with like curling, because I know that's a very important part of your life and who you are and stuff like that, and I'd like to kind of go circle back all the way through it and kind of see where it started and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, okay. I've been curling my whole life. My family is a curling family. My sister also played. My parents got us into it. My dad, I think my mom was the first person to curl, then she got my dad into it, and my dad was like, this sport, and really got into it. Got both my sister and I into it. And so then I started playing competitively when I was about 16 or so, 15 or 16. I played lead on a team that made it to an Ontario Winter Games.
Sick.
And that was kind of like, this is cool. This
Yeah.
is really cool. It was like a mini Olympics almost. Like for a 16-year-old, it was like an Olympics.
Yeah, as well.
So it really got the bug going and made me be like, I want to do this more. Got asked to play with Tracy Horgan at the time. Me and a teammate of mine, Steph, got asked to play with Tracy and her sister Jen. We played together. The four of us played together 1 year and had a lot of success.
Yeah.
And then Jen aged out, unfortunately. But then Tracy, Steph, and I played a couple more years of juniors together. Had some success as well.
Nice.
Then going into women's, Tracy and I stayed together. Jen came back, and we picked up a woman named Andrea, and we were just really building. Like when you go from juniors to women's, you're at the bottom again. So
Okay.
it takes some time. We played on a Northern Ontario curling tour. That really got us like our base. Competed like in Timmins and all kind of around Northern Ontario. Then Andrea ended up leaving the team, and we ended up picking up a girl out of Thunder Bay, Jenna. And that took our team to the next level. Jenna came in as a really strong hitter. I was playing second at the time. I don't know if you know curling positions, but I moved to lead, which lead is more like guards, like the person that sets it up. So I had been playing second, and I went to lead because Jenna coming on the team, she's a really good hitter, and that's a strength of a second.
Okay.
So we kind of had a team discussion, and I was like, I'm happy to switch to this other position because this new teammate's strength is there. What's best for the team. So that foursome played together for, I think we were 8 years. And then we picked up Crystal Webster out of, she was out of Calgary. So you can have an import on a team.
Sick.
And it was the only way for us to compete with the giant, like the big teams. Because in curling, it's based on points. Like you get invited to events based on your rankings.
Right.
So they're called the Grand Slams. They're the ones on Sportsnet. So you have to have a certain ranking in the world to be invited to those events.
Oh, cool.
And those are the big events. Like once you're in, then you get more points because you're playing against teams that have more points. That makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
It's kind of it's an interesting point structure.
Yeah.
So for us to be able to keep up with these teams, that a lot of the European teams are professional curlers.
Yeah.
And they're playing all the time.
Yeah.
So for us to be able to keep our jobs and being able to balance life, we went the 5-man team route. No other team had done that. We were the first team to try it. And it was a group effort that 5 people were playing as one. Like, whatever's best for the team is what we're trying to accomplish.
Amazing,
so
yeah.
it was really cool. And we'd look at the season at the beginning of the year and map out, we had a teammate that was an accountant. Month ends were really hard. So she was out of every tournament month end. Then we had another teammate who was a postal worker. So for her to take a day off was hard, but for her to get a week off was easier. So she would play the big tournaments.
Yeah.
Because someone to take over her route and things like that. So we mapped this season out, which elevated our game to that next level. Nice. We were able to play more events, bigger events, really pack the season in. And that really took that 5-man team to the next level. We went to the Scotties as a foursome, in 2012, kind of backtrack a little, but that was when it was still all of Ontario. So, which is kind of cool. We got to represent all of Ontario, and then we won again in 2015.
Let's go.
The same 4 of us, and we got to represent Northern Ontario, so we were the first team Northern Ontario.
Sick.
Which is super. Yeah. So my mom said we'll always be the answer to a trivia question. Yes. Who was the first team Northern Ontario? Although I asked someone that the other day and they didn't know, so I was like, it's not a very good trivia question. I was like, me. He's like, I don't know who you are. So then 2015 we went as the foursome, and then 2018 we won as the fivesome, and went to the nationals as the 5 people. We lost the 3-4 games, so we finished 4th that year, which was the best that we had done. So, but curling really was most of my life. So work, I said I went into insurance, and it was great because it was a career that allowed me to still compete. Yeah. I never really my work wasn't priority. Curling was priority, really, at my life during that time. Work kind of knew that. I did work when I was there, but I was gone. I was gone a lot. So they were really supportive, though. They gave me the time I needed, even if it had to be unpaid because I ran out of holidays or something. They were really supportive. So curling was a big part. We also I competed in 2 Olympic trials. So the 2013, 2017 Olympic pre-trials, So with curling, it's complicated. There's a pre-trials and there's a trials.
Everything's complicated.
Curling is
curling
is complicated.
Man.
I was thinking that today. I was like, if I have to explain curling, I'm like, there's hey, are you just gonna go to a beer league version of the sport? Because then just go and huck rocks and no one cares. And then there's what you watch on TV, and it's a 0 to 100. Yeah. But you can play at a 0 and still enjoy it. Yeah. But you can play at 100 as well. So crazy. Yeah. So a couple Olympic pre-trials. We got to represent Canada one year in China, played a competition in China, which was really cool. Very different. We were laughing because we spent 32 hours to get to this town in China. It's called Yichun. It's North China, almost the Russian border. And it was exactly like Sudbury. It was they're known for their blueberries. It was the same weather. We're just, because it's on the same
same plane of
pretty
longitude,
close. So we were what? Oh my god, we just took 30 hours to get here, and it was just exactly
down the road from where I live.
Yeah, literally. I'm this is just like Sudbury pretty much.
Crazy,
I mean, there was a million people that lived in that town, so it wasn't at all like Sudbury, but a lot of the things were very similar, so it made us feel a little bit at home when we were literally nowhere near home.
Literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so curling has done a lot for me as a player. Yeah. And a lot as a coach. I've gotten a lot of opportunities as a coach as well, which has been really cool. I've coached in Germany a couple times at a summer camp. I got to take a team to an International Children's Winter Games in Switzerland. Sick. That was really cool. We won gold.
Damn right you did.
My cousin Aaron was on that team. Shout out to Aaron. He did great. So we did that, and then I've coached in the States, and across Canada too. I've coached the team Northwest Territories at the Scotties one year, which was a really cool opportunity to be at that national as a coach. Yeah. Way more stressful.
Stressful.
Oh, I would rather be a player.
Why was it more stressful? It's more.
Because you have to be organized and
Fair. You can't just do one thing.
As a player, I'm very much I know we have a game, but I don't always know who we're playing against. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter to you.
In the pregame we talk about it, but I'm not worrying about it for days ahead. Yeah. And then, but as a coach, you have to know every little detail. You got to map rocks. You got to be scouting. There was so much stuff, and I'm this is a lot. I feel like I did okay, but it was much more stressful than just going on the ice and doing the athlete thing. Jeez. So I much prefer the athlete thing, but I do like coaching too. Getting to give back to other people in the community.
Nice.
That was a lot. But...
Yeah, it does sound like that. But as much as it sounds overwhelming, is there a you're like, yeah, you don't
Yeah,
even
it
know
was
the
a
half
lot.
of it, man. That's insane. There's a you guys have it's more are there coaches and is it sports psychologists you guys work with, or is it just sports psych that are kind of like replacing the role of curlers or like of curling coaches, or what does that look like? What is the role of the coach
Yeah,
per se?
so it really depends on what a team needs.
Okay. Yeah.
So we had a woman that worked with our team for a long time,
Yeah.
and she was wonderful. She really helped us like grow as players through her like technical skills, like working
Amazing.
on us technically. And then we moved into another coach that was a little bit to the next level of that, a little bit more strategy information, really good at like team management, organizing meetings, organizing practices for us, like a little bit more team management.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
you could end up with a coach that does mostly sports psych stuff. Like I had a junior coach that was really big into that stuff as well. Like
Okay.
she kind of built that base for me. It really depends on what a team needs. So some teams will have a coach, like I'd say we're talking high level.
Yes.
Some teams will have coaches that are there to talk strategy. So helping you talk about plays, like in like any
Yeah.
other sport, like a play in football, like mapping them out. So a lot of teams will have coaches that specialize in strategy.
Oh, okay.
Other teams will have more like a sports psych person on their bench that's there for more like that aspect of sport than the coaching side, because they might be people that feel like they're at a level they don't really need as much help with the coaching side for strategy,
Fair.
but they need more of that like mental side of the sport.
Okay.
So you'll also see teams that'll have chiropractors sitting on the bench.
Crazy.
The Briar champs that just won, they had a chiropractor sitting on their bench.
Is there like a sponsor? There's got to be like a sponsorship of that. Like, how do you get a chiropractor to just sit next to you?
I mean, he can say he's a Briar champ. He was wearing a medal. So, I mean, that would be a pretty good selling point. He could put it up in his shop. And
yeah, that's cool.
yeah, it really depends what teams need.
Fair.
And you'll see that the high-level teams will have all different types of people sitting on their bench. And then at the lower level, not the lower level, but more beginner players, you'll have more of a technical coach, more someone that's helping you learn to throw properly.
Yeah.
More of that, and then strategy the next level, and then into the sports side.
Okay.
Yeah. It
How-
really depends what teams.
Yeah. So do you find there's more, is there like a pattern where there's more sports psych required at a lower level, or when there are maybe not even lower, but like junior national versus like national, right? Where it's like they're not quite maturing, or you're trying to mature them quickly into a lot of things or fill a role that they need to fill like by a certain deadline. Is that quite when they come in? Almost like peaking, but less so for like on a skill or performance base, and more so on like a mental mindset.
I think it's changed.
Yeah.
So curling has gotten a lot bigger, a lot more pressure on it since the Olympics have come out. Since we've been in the Olympics and competing in the Olympics, now with mixed doubles as well, we have 2 disciplines in the Olympics. So when I was a junior, we worked on sports psych, and that helped. But I would say we were a rare team that did that. So junior for us is like, there's a whole bunch of different ages now for juniors, but say 21 and under.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't as much of an emphasis.
Okay.
But I would say now it probably is more, because now people that are at that age are almost being like, or almost scouting for who they're going to play with as men and women when they move up. Like there's like a lot, when I was under 21, we never picked up a player from another province, where now you'll see athletes move across the country to play with other people.
Whoa.
Because they're like, this is where my opportunity. Oh, there's tons of players that are coming out of the East Coast and moving to Alberta, because that's where the National Training Center is. Yeah. You'll see tons of more movement now that didn't happen before.
Right.
So I would say like the mental toughness side of the sport is getting to a much higher need earlier on in people's career than it was before, for sure.
Interesting.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
There's just so much more on the line for curling now, like funding wise. There's just so like the slams, like there's just so much more exposure and so much more to play for.
Yeah.
So people want to align themselves and be better sooner, so that they get picked up by good teams and kind of find themselves on these top teams early.
So I'm wondering if you could change, because it sounds to me like what might be nice about curling, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the thing that makes like football interesting or basketball like fascinating and stuff like that is there's one kind of pivotal set of rules amongst all organizations and tournaments. Curling has different rules based on like tournaments, correct? Like the Briar, Scotties, the Olympics, Championships, like they all have the same rule set, or
Yeah, they
okay.
do.
Yeah.
The only things that are a little bit different are the slams might throw a new rule in as a
weird.
Tester.
Whoa.
So curling is the cool thing about curling is it's still very much developing.
Right.
Rules are still changing because we're trying to make it more exciting, trying to make it more interesting as athletes get better and better. New rules need to be developed to make the game interesting again. Because so let me see if I can try to explain. So for example, there used to be a shot called the tick.
Okay.
So if you're picturing, can you picture a curling house? It's the circles, and then there's a line down the middle that goes up into like the white area above the circles. So if a rock is on the line in the middle, out in the white, out in front of the house, it can't be hit, can't be taken out of play until the fifth rock.
Whoa.
Okay, but that's developed. Sorry, until after the fifth rock's thrown, so the sixth rock. So, but that's developed. It used to be a 3-rock rule. Then it was 4-rock. Now it's 5-rock rule. So you can't hit it out until the sixth rock. Till you're throwing the sixth rock. So then someone decided, well, what if we just tick it over? What if we just touch it enough to move it to the side, but not out of play?
So it still stays in play.
So it's still in play. So that was called the tick. So then people got really good at it, but then it made curling boring again because you were moving that guard and less people could hide behind less. There was less strategy. It's just like, well, now we tick that out of the way. Now we just hit, right?
Yeah.
So now they have a no tick rule. So
okay.
now a rock that's touching that line
Yeah.
can't be taken off that line. It can still be hit, but it can't be taken off the line. So you could like bump it forward for if you wanted, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm a lead, and so my shot would have been one throwing the tick.
Take out the guard.
If you touch it now by accident, your rock comes off and it goes back. You'll lose a shot.
Whoa!
So they're trying to make more rules to keep up with the athleticism and the abilities of the players, which is kind of cool because like the tick would never have been played 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But now it's just people are too good at it, so they had to get rid of it again. Like it's just so curling's constantly developing.
It's finding its own way to.
So the rules are always the same, but they will change if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, if you could implement, change, or add your own, it could be anything. It could be like a hockey fight halfway through. Like it could be anything. If you could wave a magic wand, Amanda, you get to fix or change or make one rule, and that with the intent of making it increasing the excitement, right, to the general pop, we call them, and because like you said, I find it interesting to watch when there's like the six different rocks in the middle, and there's like 2 colored here, 2 here, but if they knock that, and it's like how the hell, and they end up making it work, and then that's wild to me. Yeah. I'm like, that's really cool, that's exciting. But like you said, with the way the tick rule and stuff, or no tick rule after the 5th rock, so with the intent of making it more exciting, and they could just be removing that rule, what would you do, add or change or remove?
So I think this is something that I've thought of recently, actually. Nice. So good timing. But it has nothing actually to do with the game, but more like the commentating of it. So watching it on TV.
Oh, interesting.
I would love to have like a non-curler be part of the commentary.
That'd be amazing.
Because I've watched many of the curling game with non-curlers, and the questions they ask, I'm like, I never even would have thought to that's a question, because some things about curling to curlers are so obvious, but it's so not obvious to non-curlers. So I just think it would be really cool is if like you were watching curling on TV and there was just Joe Smith from down the block that was like, what is going on here? And would be kind of that
like a bit enthusiastic.
The average Joe to ask the questions, and then the other commentators be the ones to answer them. I just think people would enjoy watching curling more if it's kind of a little bit more laid out. Yeah,
I find too that'd be a good way of bridging the gap.
Yeah.
Right, versus really hardcore professionals and the people who are average Joes, like you were saying, that aren't quite aware but want to give it a try, and then they're like, okay, well, there's too much of a disconnect, right? A lot of things when we're starting out, that's the problem I see with a lot of new
Yeah.
sports, people who don't know. You're like, oh, you're watching this. And like, I don't. It's like
I don't like watching it.
Yeah, and it's like you don't know. Like my favorite part about watching, I have friends that I watch UFC fights with. I've been training for about 6 years now. I know roughly what I'm looking at. Not by any means am I a professional or expert or anything. But when you've been doing something for 6 years consistently, you know a bit more than somebody who hasn't.
For sure.
Right? Whether they've been watching it for the same amount of time as you or whatnot, for sure. So, my favorite part is sitting down and watching them. The only difference is with guys and watching fights versus anybody watching anything else. They're like, oh, it's this. Oh, look at that. Oh, and that's not. Oh, why did he do that? Or oh, that's boring. And I have buddies of mine that are like, they're like 7-3 like amateur fighters, and I'm like texting them, and they're like, "Yo, this is so fascinating. Did you see that exchange?" And I was like, "Dude, that was crazy."
Yeah.
But everybody's booing next
and
to
they're
me.
missing it. Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't understand, like, there's like a skill set separation that you can't visualize skill, right? Which is very, very tough. And I think too is why I want to kind of steer that into my next like question. What is a common misconception people have in regards to curling?
I think a lot of people think it's more boring than it is.
Yeah.
So I think, and this works with the commentator idea, right? Like,
yeah,
I think
love that
people
idea,
think the big shots are like, I mean, they're the ones that are incredible, and people are like, wow, big shot, right? Of course. But sometimes the non-big shots are the harder ones. And the like lightweight through a port, like through a hole, tap back is not as like thrilling,
right?
But is way more challenging. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, wow, that was like so good. And like, I think that a lot of people don't, like, they miss those things because they don't understand the sport.
Yeah.
So whenever I watch with friends that know nothing, like the questions they ask are so much strategy based, and that's what's exciting when you start to understand what could happen or shots that could be made. You start to think ahead, and you're like, wait, if they do that, then that's gonna be there, and they could do that. Then it gets you like, more into it. So I think people look at it and just go, who cares? It's just so boring. But if you like took a second and just watched a little bit of it and with someone that could help you understand it, then you might be like, oh my gosh, I actually really like this. It's like,
it's a lot more strategy than it's kind of
that's for the watching side of it. And then I think for the playing, a lot of people will come out and do it once and be like, oh, I hate that. It's a very hard sport.
It's not easy. I've done it a few times. It's not
very hard.
And it's fun. Don't get me wrong, it's a blast. It's just not, it's way easier.
I find it a lot like golf. Like, if you don't do it often and you expect to be good at it, you're going to get super frustrated and hate it.
Very much so.
If you're a golfer that goes once a year and that's all your expectations and you don't care, then curling will also be fine.
You'll have a blast.
You'll have a blast. Go have a drink at a curling club and you'll have a blast.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So I think a lot of people don't give it a chance. So that's kind of my thing. And I started a league on Wednesday nights that I'm hoping will get more people to come out and try it because it's not a big commitment. So curling game is normally like 2 hours, 2+ hours. I just got rid of the whole second half of the game. We play 4 ends. It takes 1 hour. Then the vibe is you stay for dinner and drinks. And that's just to be, it's strictly social. It's strictly just come out and try it. Or a lot of people coming back to it. So people who used to curl and then we're like, oh, it's just so, I don't know if I could take a whole night away from the kids. It's like, no, come for an hour.
Yeah, come for an hour.
Get back into it. So I think people just don't give it enough of a chance. Yeah. That's my thought with curling.
No, that's fair. No, for sure. And it's very, it's hard. It's very more challenging than like people would expect. I remember I was at, I think it was the Sudbury, like the curling club here, right off of Howie or Bancroft, whatever one, right? And I remember taking like 15 shots to make the one shot I needed, and it just was like, it was a blast. It was good. Like, I had the right amount of alcohol in me. I was enjoying it. I'd watched it enough growing up, like with Olympics and stuff, and like mom's a big fan of it. So I was like, watching it, understood enough to be like, okay, well, what if I'm like trying to like let go at the right time to spin it, but not overspin it with my elbow, and just, I'm like, it's like responding to me. Interesting. I might have been like overthinking it, but
probably.
That's about the idea. So you've gone a bunch of places with your playing and with your coaching.
Yeah.
Do you have a best and worst travel experience?
For curling wise or life?
Let's do I want to do both.
Okay.
Yeah,
I could do let me think.
You can do both.
Okay, so curling best experience. I mean, probably going to China was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that also might be, maybe I would put that more like a worst, because that was probably the most challenging. And we did get, we did have a moment in the Beijing airport where we fell for a, give us your passports and we'll help you get through faster.
No.
Yes. Oh, after it happened, we're all like, that was dumb. That was dumb. Yeah, so we got kind of bamboozled in the Beijing airport. But I'd say another really good trip we'd used to do, we'd go to Scotland and curl in Scotland. And I always thought that was so special because it's the motherland of curling. Like, curling is from Scotland. So I remember the first time we went, I was like, we're like curling in the motherland. So that would probably be my favorite. Really cool. My favorite place that I've curled would be Scotland, I think. And then the Beijing trip, like the China trip, was good, but also probably the toughest.
So take me through, because we can't really skim over that. Take me through what happened. Come on.
We're just
as much as
dumb.
you like can.
So
that
dumb.
Like, you just jet lagged really bad.
We were. So we flew Sudbury, Toronto, Detroit, Beijing. So we had been traveling for
Detroit.
I don't know. Sudbury, Toronto, Detroit, Beijing, and then so we had been traveling for who knows, like 25 hours or whatever at that point. The Beijing airport's massive.
It's
we were very overwhelmed. There was the four of us and our coach. And we were just kind of in a panic trying to find, because we had to catch another flight to Harbin. Yeah. So we were in a panic. We're just rushing around I think we had to grab our luggage. I don't know. It was stressful. Yeah. And someone was just offering us help. And we were like, sounds good. Yeah. Like, you seem legit. I think they had like a bit of a uniform looking on. Like I feel like it wasn't just like a person in a Nike sweatsuit, but I feel like it was someone that looked kind of legit. Yeah. And then they gave we gave them their passports and we walked with them and they brought us to this gate where we had to go. They did bring us to where we had to go, but then made us pay them like I forget, 300 yen or something to get our passports back, with $30 or $20 or something. Yeah. It wasn't like a crazy amount.
But it's the principle.
And after it happened, we're like, why would we hand someone our passports? Why would we do like it? Just
the
was
one thing you shouldn't lose.
Just absolute
ever.
Stupidity.
Not the best country to lose it in either.
No, and we were fine. They gave it back to us, and then we got through to the next flight. We had to fly to Harbin, and it was I think that was like a 2-hour flight, and we had a 5-hour bus ride to get to Yichun. Yeah. So yeah, that was just insane. It was just tired and stressful. Hopeful that a person was actually trying to help us. I mean, in theory, they did help us. But at the risk of losing all of our passports.
That's incredible. How'd they manage to help you?
They took us to the right gate.
Oh, they did.
They did. Yeah.
We
just made it to the correct gate. They just then were like, "You have to pay us now," and we were like,
"Well, that's good."
We literally all looked at each other and were like, "Yep, that sounds right." And two accountants on the team, they're pretty upset.
Yeah, I'd be chapped too.
They were pretty upset. The bonus is that we won the event.
Damn right.
And we won 1 million yen.
Sick.
So we were pretty pumped to have a check that said 1 million on it. We're all like taking photos. 1 million. It's really like 10 grand, but it was like, but it said 1 million. Yeah. So I think one of my teammates tried to take the check home because she wanted a check that said 1 million. She like folded it in and tried to like put it in her suitcase because it was one of those comically large ones.
I love those.
Yeah, I don't know if she still has it actually. I just saw it the other day. I should check in and be like, do you have that still? Knowing her, she probably does.
She definitely does. She doesn't ever fold it up either. Yeah, 100%. It's unfolded at like for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So unrelated to curling now, any like crazy like terrible experiences that you touch on, or
I feel like my travel life is
because you've gone a lot of places.
Yeah,
not all next to each other either. Like some over here, some down there.
Yeah, I go random places. It's so funny because this is kind of like a best and worst. So my favorite place I've been to, I went to Alula, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Loved it. Absolutely.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
That sounds incredible.
I was talking to someone recently and they were like, where do you think we should go? Like, me and my husband are talking about wanting to go on a trip. And I was like, Alula, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, why?
And they're like, well, we were thinking Mexico. I was like, oh.
Okay, well, don't.
I guess I should have asked, like, what's your vibe?
Yeah.
So I did. So that's probably the worst and best trip. It was a nightmare. I went to Qatar first.
Yeah.
Doha, I met a friend of mine. She lived there, so flew there, met her and a couple other people from Australia. It took me 3 days to get there. I think I was on day 2, and I was still just in Toronto. Like, it was it was an absolute nightmare of a travel. It was a trip that I had planned for like a year and a half. Yeah. Could not wait for it. Was looking for like I planned the whole trip for everybody. It was just this trip of a lifetime. Flight out of Sudbury canceled, of course. So then have to get rescheduled for the morning.
Epic.
Like, this could be an hour podcast. I'm with the whole thing. So
Yeah.
I'll try to be cool. So got scheduled for the morning. Then flew on the first flight out to Toronto because they were like, oh, we could put you on a later one. I'm like, just get me to Toronto. So I got to Toronto the first flight out. Then was on that. I was supposed to be on the night before flight over, but missed that, obviously. So then was on that night.
Yeah.
Now day 2, overnight flight. That flight gets canceled. So now I'm stuck in Toronto. But I met a girl in the airport. Her name is Hope. And she's living in Tennessee.
Nice.
So she actually came up to visit me last summer.
Oh,
we
amazing.
literally met for there was no hotel rooms left, so her and I stayed in a hotel room together.
Nice. Yeah.
So we just had a celebration of 2 years having not killed each other, because that was our comment. We'll room together, but that was our question to each other. Like, you can stay with me, but are you gonna kill me?
Yeah.
Because they're complete strangers. She's like, no.
I have no
She's
idea.
like, I won't kill you. Will you kill me? I'm like, no, we're good.
Yeah.
So
No? All right,
we just
we're
had our
square.
2-year anniversary.
I love it.
So then now the next day we go to fly again. So now we're on another flight. I ended up in Rome. I think I ended up it was in Rome. I was supposed to be in Germany on the original plan. So now that's day 3. I'm only in Rome. Then I had to overnight in Rome. And then the next day I think that night I flew. I literally didn't even know what day it was. Like, I was doing like kind of like videos on my Instagram, and I was like, I don't know what day. Is it even night? Is it day? Like, I haven't been outside. I'm not sure. But it took 3 days to get. It was a nightmare of travel. But then a trip of a lifetime. So I was supposed to get 4 days in Doha. I got 2.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It ended up being 1, I guess, because we flew out the next day.
Damn.
Then we did Riyadh.
Qatar.
Yeah, Qatar. Yeah.
Random.
Well, my friend was over there because one of her biggest clients is FIFA.
Oh, cool.
So she was working on the World Cup. So she was
Sick.
there, so she showed us around a bit. Really cool place.
Yeah.
It was really neat. I was only there for a day, but then we flew to Saudi Arabia. We did Riyadh, the capital, for one night. It's a business town. It's like, it's not really meant for like tourism. Then we did Alula, and it was just where it's at.
It was.
It's just a resort.
Amazing.
It was like, it's very touristy. But no one. Like, it's meant for tourists, but there were no tourists. It was really, I don't ever saw anybody else on the
time
resort.
of year, or just like,
I think it's just Saudi Arabia is not a big tourist destination.
makes sense.
A lot of people aren't like, I'm gonna head to Saudi for
they
my
just think desert,
vacation.
and oil money, and
Yeah, but I had
other things.
my mom's oldest sister, my aunt, and like that family. They lived in Saudi Arabia for a decade, like during the 90s.
what?
Yeah, that's why I always really wanted to go. So when this opportunity came up, I was like, I have to go.
Yeah.
And so my aunt sent me a photo of my cousins in front of this tomb from like 1992, and I found the same tomb and took a photo.
No way,
in front
you
of it.
recreated it? Yeah, you did. Oh,
I
that's
couldn't recreate
awesome.
it perfectly because
Sure.
in the 90s you could go up in them, but now with more tourism,
For
they
the
don't
best.
let you go in it.
Yeah,
but I
preserve.
showed the tour guides. I was like, look at this photo. It's from the 90s, and they were all like, whoa, that's crazy.
That's cool. Yeah.
So the place we went to, it's just like you know.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm spacing on the name of it. What's in Jordan, the you know, the tomb that everyone knows. I'm
Except
spacing
us.
on the name now, now.
Everybody but us.
Yeah, I'm so mad that I can't remember. But yes, Alula, Saudi Arabia was
Yeah.
amazing. They have the largest mirrored building in the world.
Oh yeah, that's right, eh?
Crazy, absolutely crazy.
No
to stand
way.
in front of it, it's weird.
Does it like melt everything in like a...
It was like, I mean, it's warm there anyways,
Yeah.
but it was cool. Like, it didn't take away from the scenery.
No.
Like, you looked at the building and it looked like everything around, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So it still looked really beautiful.
But like, did the mirrors magnify the sun to like melt other things? Like,
No.
I'm curious about.
No, I didn't
Huh.
notice anything melting. No. We were there in March though,
Interesting.
so it wouldn't have been like
You
high
wouldn't have
heat.
Quite experienced.
Yeah, it
it
wouldn't have
then.
been high
That's
heat.
good.
Then we did we went to this old town market.
Yeah.
So we kind of walked through there. Lots of people were taking photos of us because we were there was only like us and one other group of Western
Yeah.
people there. So we were like, we can see you. Like, people were like
Stood
holding
out
their
a little,
phones.
eh?
Yeah, and women.
True.
That was only I think the third year or fifth, maybe it was 5 years that women could go unaccompanied. So
Oh,
before
wow.
that, I couldn't have even traveled there
Oh, wow.
without going with like a boyfriend, a husband, or sort of probably not a boyfriend, but a husband, a father, or a brother. So
Oh, wow.
we thought it was, and we were there for International Women's Day, so we thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, we were kind of like,
right
look at us, we're
on,
pioneers, you know?
Yeah. First of our kind in this land.
Yeah, look at us in this land.
Just roaming
That would
around.
be my favorite place I've traveled. And
No
then I
way,
did,
yeah.
and then from there we went to Dubai, and I just got the memory on Monday actually that
Nice.
2 years ago Monday I was on a boat in Dubai, like a party boat in
Yeah.
Dubai, and then I was going to work. I'm like, oh, 2 years ago. 2 years ago me was having a lot more fun.
You're like, I can go back in time.
Yeah, that
Oh,
I just
that's
remember
awesome.
being on that boat and being like, I'm in Dubai on
Yeah.
a party boat right now. This is cool. This is really cool.
It doesn't get much better than this.
It really,
Like,
you know,
man,
that's probably
awesome.
a
Yeah.
peak trip for me.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, I mean, I just did Finland too.
Yeah.
And I've done, we did Denmark, Norway, Sweden in the summer. So I'll just go anywhere really. Like trips for me are pick a place and let's go.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Eh? Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Figure
How do
out-
you, or you might just not care about it, but like, how do you budget it? Like for it, do you have like a strategy? Because you mentioned you were planning for like an hour, or not an hour. Sorry, wow, a
Yeah.
year and
Year and a half,
It's
yeah.
a bit different time.
Yeah, I would say that I'm very like, I'm a big like a planner. So
Yeah.
I like to like, I try to get cheap flights. I usually use points for flights if I'm doing something big like that.
Yeah. What type of? Do you have like a credit card?
Yeah,
specifically
just
for
like
it?
a TD travel
It's a TD
card.
travel,
Yeah,
yeah.
that I try to, and then I also book everything on that card, so then it brings your points back up for the next
I
trip.
see, yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, so I'll usually use points for the flights, and then I try to like really look for good deals for where to stay.
Yeah.
Those are the things I'll really try to like map out, and then I need to see the things that you need to see. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You know, you're going to Egypt, you're going to see the pyramids. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to skip that.
No,
you
you
know,
don't
like
go to Paris and not go up the tower.
yeah, like so I try to make sure I put in all the things that
okay.
I don't want to come home and someone be like, "Oh, did you see that while you were there?" And you're like, "No." Now I gotta go back.
Yeah.
You know, so like I went to Ireland and I didn't
Yeah.
get certified as a Guinness pourer, and
Damn
I had to
it.
go back and do it, and it cost me thousands of dollars to go back to do it. I did though. I am now certified Guinness
Damn
pourer.
right. Oh, that's
So
awesome.
very much need to do the things that you need to do and see the things you need to see.
Yeah.
And then from there, I leave a lot of like open time. Like you never know what's gonna happen.
Smart, you
you
don't,
might meet
yeah.
people and they're like, "Let's do this," and you're like, "Okay,
Yeah,
sounds
say
good."
less.
So, and then once I'm on the trip, there's no budget.
None.
No, book everything far enough in advance
to do
that
it.
it's all paid and done, and
Yeah.
you're going with a credit card at zero, and then once you're there,
Oh,
because you can't go
interesting.
back. Like you
No.
can, but to go back, you got to do the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Where once you're there, it's like, hey, you want to go skydiving? It's going to be $500 or $1,000.
Yeah.
It's like, yes,
Like
I'm
I
going to go do
actually,
that.
Yeah.
Because if I come back here, it's going to cost me more than
Yeah.
just doing it right now. So that's how I travel.
Yeah. The book far enough in advance though to that it's paid off. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
You
Then
got me there.
then it's free. You're like
Yeah.
everything is just, have like a plan for what you like. I always have but I usually book like even excursions and things like tickets
Sure.
to things are all booked already.
Right.
So then everything else is just like food and whatever pops up. So
Ah.
that's kind of how I do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like that. That's good strategy.
I don't
I'm
want to
curious.
regret that
Yeah.
I didn't do something like that Guinness pourer.
Yeah.
And when I went to China, I did not see the Great Wall. And I still to this day am upset about it. I know, exactly. See how much that hurts? It
Yeah, it
hurts.
stings.
Try being the person that didn't do it.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Because now I got to go
Yeah.
back. And I go 30 hours back. So
Yeah.
that was probably the first time I learned that lesson. And then it's just not worth
Yeah.
it. It's not worth not doing it.
No, fair.
Money you can make.
Yeah.
You can't get time back.
I love
That's
it.
how I think about
Yeah.
it.
That's a good way to put it for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really good way to put it. I remember being in, we were doing a road trip out west, me and 4 friends of mine. God, that minivan,
Oh, sounds great. Yep.
it was just so potent, whatever mix of gross smells you can think of. And I remember everywhere we went was like, oh, can we do this? And it was like, we don't have the money for it. And it was like, with the exception, like me and another friend of mine, but it's like, what, do 2 of us go whale watching? Or, and 3, you guys just do nothing?
Yeah.
For 4 hours, or like drive around and no, it was just
Yeah.
it would ruin the fun. So it was like a lot of that stuff where it's like, oh, do we do this $150 for 15 like there's some outrageous price price grabs, right? But you're thinking, you're like, could I do this helicopter ride in Banff? All right, guys, it's $150 each. And they're like, oh, no, that's not bad. And I'm like, for 15 minutes. And they're like, no!
You're like, but guys, it's like a helicopter ride in Banff.
Like,
Yeah.
it'll be fun.
Yeah.
That's
I would have said yes, but
Yeah.
I think it's also finding the group of people to travel with. Like
Yeah.
the group I went with to the Middle East is two of the girl. There was 2 girls and a guy, and the 2 girls and I just did Finland together as well with
Yeah.
some other girls. So I think it's also finding people that travel the same way as you and have the same view of travel.
Interesting.
I have 2 friends, Trevor and Dom, that I've traveled with a ton, and we travel the same way. Like
Nice.
we are like that, where we book things in advance, and then it's what comes up.
Yeah.
We've had tickets to things, and something came up, and we're like, let's do this thing that came up. And we've just blown tickets of something because we're like, this sounds like a cooler story.
Yeah.
Like we had tickets to it. I remember one night we were in Washington, D.C. We were in Washington and we had tickets to a jazz, like a piano bar jazz night.
Oh, cool.
And we went to a drag brunch that morning and met a group of people, and then we went to like a hookah bar, and then the group of people kept growing, and then we ended up at another place and the group of people kept growing, and then one of the girls is like, we're all going to my rooftop and we're having dinner together, and we're like, guess we're doing that.
I'm
like
hungry.
Forget the jazz club, we're going to that, because we're like, this is gonna be a good story.
Yeah.
Like the jazz club would have been probably great, but now we can say we went to this random girl's house, like her rooftop patio, and
you met 11 hours earlier. And
and we had this, and almost everybody came back. Like we had a group of 10 people. It was like I think 4 different groups. 2 people were on a first date that joined our group, and then they showed up.
Imagine.
They were like, let's do
perspective?
it. Yeah,
oh,
I know they're probably like, these people were crazy. Yeah. So that's how they traveled.
They're still together now. I guarantee.
I would love that.
Now. Oh my goodness.
We should have got their information and found out.
No,
but I really think it depends on like finding those people that travel the same way as you. Because then that's easy. Then it's like, you know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to do the things you got to do. And then the other moments are just spontaneous. And yeah, that's really fun. That's how I like to travel. So.
Interesting. Yeah. Nice.
We're working on Portugal in September right now. So that's the next trip.
Where in Portugal?
No idea. We just said Portugal. Or like we just confirmed it yesterday.
You know what we know.
Yeah. You know what I know. Portugal was confirmed yesterday. And the date's yesterday. So that's it.
Epic. That's exciting though. Oh man.
Yeah, it's one of my friend's 40th birthdays. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, that's the thought. Yeah.
So take me through to the wellness hub from curling.
Okay, from curling.
Yeah, from like the end of your, like when you made the decision to walk away.
Yeah, so
I guess from competing, I guess.
I walked away from like competitive curling. I wouldn't even say I walked away. I was kind of out of a job.
Right.
I don't know how to explain this better than that, but 2018, Team Fleury decided to go our separate ways. Everyone's just life was changing, and we wanted to end it on our terms in a way that we are all still friends and everything was,
Smart,
like very much like, let's not push this.
No
and
resentment.
People being on different pages, we're not on the same page. Let's be done. And we're still all friends today. Like
Amazing,
just was with 2 of them on the weekend, and I talked, like we still talk all the time.
Good.
And that's what we wanted. That team was always friends first. And then, so that's kind of how we ended that. So then I would have liked to have kept playing. I was actually playing my best in 2018. But the way the curling world kind of shifted, because that was the end of an Olympic cycle, so in at high level curling, people operate in quadrennials a lot of the time. So you're not locked in, but in a sense you're locked in for like 4 years.
Right.
So when 4 years are up, that's when people might scatter. Some teams will stay together, other teams will like kind of shuffle.
Like really dispersed, yeah.
Because you're like, okay, now let's prepare for the next Olympic cycle. Right. So what ended up happening is a lot of teams kind of like combined. So then there was less teams looking for top players, like high level players. So then you're kind of out of a job. So, I kind of asked around to see who was like interested in playing and what was going on, but there just wasn't like, there was no positions.
Yeah, there's no room.
And it wasn't just me, like lots of other like I would say front enders, that's leads and seconds. There was a lot of front enders that kind of ended up kind of to the side because there was just no jobs left for us. My sister did decide to kind of walk away. She ended up getting picked up by McCarville and getting a couple more years in. She kind of wanted to retire, but she ended up getting a great opportunity. So she was like, getting to play with a childhood friend of hers, Kendra. So she wanted
I can't really turn that down.
Yeah, she said yes to that. So I didn't really like want to walk away, but kind of happened. And it wasn't a bad thing because it's like, okay, now maybe it's time to work on career and what's your plan. So my career kind of got amped up. I was still in insurance and kind of wanted to do more and more and more. I made a move from one company to another that I probably wouldn't have done if I was still playing competitive because it's too hard to explain to the new people that you're going to be gone. The new company actually was really supportive of curling, so that kind of was bad timing, but also good timing because I still played mixed. I still played mixed and competitively that way. So they were really supportive when I made it to nationals for mixed. And then curling kind of slowed down a little bit, and then my career wasn't kind of amping up as much as I wanted it to. I wanted to do more with my career, and I just was seeing a lot of just it not moving how I wanted it to.
I see, yeah.
So then a curling friend was the one that's recommended me applying for this position at this youth wellness hub. He is someone I played league with, my friend Billy, and he works at Compass. So he was like, this role's come up. I think you'd be really good at it. And I was like, well, okay, I'll apply. I'll just, what can't hurt, whatever. Yeah. I wasn't really looking to change careers, but I also was not happy where my career was. So it was kind of a good moment. Applied, I did the interview, and then I got a call that I got the job. Sick. And I was like, oh crap, like this is happening. Yeah. And I kind of thought about it. If I get this role, it's meant for me to change careers. If I don't, then I'm going to keep pushing in my career in insurance and keep trying to do that. Yeah. I just figured leave it to the fates.
Good way to put it. Yeah.
Leave it to what happens, right? Get this role, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing now. Yeah. And it's so Youth Wellness Hub is a provincial initiative. So there's 27 other active hubs across the province, and more set to open. I think they're going to be up to like 35 by the end of the year. Amazing. So Sudbury had been trying to get one since 2017.
True, yeah.
When the first hubs started opening, and just was never like winning the bid to get them. So finally won the bid in, I guess, 2022. So then we opened in 2023. Yep. So I got hired on. I started April 2023. Nice. And it's interesting because not often are you the first person in your role.
Yeah. Usually there's like a bit of guidance or somebody you can, or like a path laid out for you, some pamphlet.
Or someone to be like, this is how I did it. So, I mean, other hubs, we all stay in contact. There's a monthly meeting. Oh, cool. But it's not like the same as someone being there because the hubs are not all of them, but most have a lead agency. So Compass is the lead agency that I work for, but that brought the hub. So you follow a lot of the policies and procedures of your lead agency. Okay, so you can't really use other hubs as full-on examples.
I see you.
And then hubs are meant to also fit the community.
Right.
What are the community needs, Yeah. Like there's one in Kenora that it's on a reserve and it works really closely with Indigenous youth. So that's their focus in that area. So it really depends on your community. So it was very interesting being like the first of my role in a career, like in an industry that
You're also brand new.
I'm also brand new at. And so I was very much like, awesome. Okay, this is, exciting. I remember coming home every night the first probably 2 or 3 months, and my head just like hurt because of like it was constant brand new knowledge all day. It was 8 hours of new knowledge just coming at me, and I was like,
overwhelming.
Oh my God, this is a lot for sure, right? And just like I remember coming home from work sometimes just like falling asleep. Like I got high energy and I was like I had none left. But now it's been, we're coming up on 2 years, so I feel a little bit more comfortable and stable in the role. Yeah. We still have lots of changes coming. The hub is always growing, and it's very exciting role. So my job at the hub is, I'm the coordinator.
Yes.
So my staff are called peer support workers. So they're the ones that manage the space itself.
Yeah.
It's set up very much like a games room, hangout. We have food, clothes closet, and their role is as a youth comes in, they kind of say, what brought you here? What did you come just to hang out? Like, what brings you to this space? And start building the rapport with the youth that come in. Yeah. And we've had youth that came in just to play pool. And they came in and played pool for 6 months. And then got a girlfriend, and then a month later that girlfriend dumped them, and that's when they needed peer support. Yeah. That's when they needed someone to talk to, and they were upset. You're a teenager. Yeah. And that's the biggest deal. It's the love of your life, right?
Yeah.
And
I thought you were going to go a different route with that story. Like, oh, they got a girlfriend, then we never saw them again.
Well, we have had that happen, too.
That does happen.
we have that happen, too, where we're like, where'd they go? Oh, they got a girlfriend.
Like, they're in love now.
They're in love now. But yeah, so I manage them. So I have 3 full-time, 2 part-time, 1 casual. And then my role is to bring in community partners to work out of the space. So the point of a youth wellness hub is that a youth walks through the door, and whatever they tell a peer support worker they need, it's right there. We can say, right there. This person's right there. So my job is to make sure those people are there when we need them. So huge. Compass gives us a clinician. So we have a social worker. Her name's Irene, and she is there 3 days a week. And she works with youth. She's absolutely amazing, and she's so passionate about the hub and really bought into it. Yeah. Then we have a nurse practitioner. So Hannah, I actually went to high school with her, so it worked out really well when she got hired. I was like, hey, this is great. So she's in 3 days a week as well, and she does everything that a family doctor can do. So a lot of youth that are new to Sudbury that don't have family doctors, she's picked up a ton of them. She's very busy. And then we have Dr. Franklin that's come on. He specializes in substance use and addictions. He comes and works with her on Wednesdays.
Amazing.
We have a psychiatrist that comes in once a month, Dr. Adjuazi. We have partnered with YMCA where we have employment support comes in on Tuesdays for 2 hours. We have housing support on Thursdays for 2 hours. Whoa. So we just have we have CMHA. It's court outreach worker. Her name is Madison. She's been with the hub since the very beginning, and she's amazing. So she helps any youth that are going through the justice system. So if they have to go to court for something, she's always there. So at least they have that familiar face, even just to be like, hey, Maddie, where's the bathroom? Someone that they can recognize, and she'll meet with them also at the hub to talk about that stuff.
That's easy.
So she's been such a resource for a lot of our youth.
Takes a lot of stress off.
Yeah, just to have that familiar face when you're going through something that's really stressful, right?
Yeah.
So the goal with the hub is just basically to form as many relationships we can with as many community partners so that when youth come in, we can say, there you go. Our space is limited. We're located in the YMCA building, and we're limited to space there, but we make it work. Like
you made the most of the space there. For sure.
I feel like we're on top of each other a lot of the time, but everyone's community partners are so great. Like employment just kind of works out in the main space. Same with housing works out in the main space because we don't have private rooms for them. So everyone's just been kind of there, and the role's been super interesting. And literally every day is a problem solving of some kind.
Yeah.
I feel, which is a strength I find of mine, is problem solving. So every day I get my strength pushed and challenged. But
looks like we're developing this skill again.
Yeah, or this happened, or a kid said this, or I feel like every day someone brings up something that I'm like, okay, let's try to figure out what the plan is with that. Okay. Or someone will donate something that then we have to, we've had people stop by and donate some really cool things that I'm like, how can we do this? How can we make this work? I'll always say yes. I'm really bad and good, I guess, for always saying yes. Yeah. And then I always just think, future me will figure out what to do with this, and future me will worry about the consequences of this. Yeah. But yeah, it's a really cool job, and I think something that Sudbury really needed, and I would have loved it as a kid, even just as a place to go and hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
A lot of kids just come, and they have friends in other schools, and they meet there, and they hang out, and then, their parents pick them up after work, and off they go, and it just gives you kind of a safe space to spend some time.
Yeah,
so.
Like a couple hours after school night. We were buffer zone, right? Like they're done school, but they're not. Parents aren't quite done work, right? Like
your parents aren't home. Instead of going home to an empty house, you kind of come there and spend some time. And the peer support workers have built such great relationships with a lot of these kids, where they'll a lot will come in on their own, and be like, oh, I'm here to hang out with one of the peer support workers. Can't wait to hang out with them. Like, they're friends. They treat them like friends. It's very much like a comfortable place and safe place for youth. So we're ages 12 all the way to 25 too. So we're up to young adults that and everything's free, so they can come in for free mental health. Which, when does that ever happen? I would love that. Free therapy would be. Who doesn't want that? If you're under 25, you can get free therapy. Poor Irene's like, no, I'm so busy.
She's like, don't do that.
But yeah, so it's really cool, and kind of like. The transition to this job happened from a curling friend, and also because of where my career was kind of at. So kind of career and curling both led me to kind of where I am today, which is really cool. So
left it up to the universe, and
I did.
Like, you belong in this position.
And I'll be very honest. When I was at Laurentian, I never finished. So I was kind of just, I don't want to do sports psychology, and my dad was like, well, let's do this instead. So I didn't finish my degree. Then COVID hit. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and finish. I'm just going to go back, check that box off, and surprise my dad with a degree, because my dad was always a little disappointed I didn't finish it, as parents are. So I finished it during COVID. Yeah. And then that was one of the things you had to have. That was one of the things you had to have to get this job. You had to have a degree. And I was like, I literally just got it, 2021. Wow. Yeah. So it just worked out really well that literally the universe just aligned with everything. Because probably if COVID didn't happen, I probably would have been like, I never would have gone back. But I had nothing else to do, so I was like, I'll just do some schooling online and finish this off. And
that's easy.
Yeah, really crazy how that all just panned out. Yeah,
played out really well.
Yeah.
At the hub, do you have any that you feel comfortable talking about, that you have, like, maybe not so much hero stories, but like maybe somebody that came in that was searching for something, and because of the services or whatever that are provided, he or she or person was able to let it come out the other side, like a better... like a
Yeah.
challenge you maybe help people work through. It could be you, or it could be the team. It could be somebody specific that you can think of.
Yeah,
You don't have to name them, obviously.
Yeah,
but...
yeah, I can't name them. We haven't really been open long enough that I'd love a lot more stories like that. We did have one youth that started coming in and then was going back to school. He was an older youth that was going back to school, and he ended up graduating valedictorian of his class. So we were really proud of him.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a super regular in the space, but was in the space quite often and would come in after school and check in with us. And so I like to think that we kind of helped him to that. We've had a lot of youth that I feel just didn't feel like they had a place to go that now do. So maybe it's not a huge hero story, but they have sense of belonging.
Yeah.
One of the things
that's huge.
I don't spend a lot of time out on the floor. My staff do that, so I'm a lot of times in the back. But a few times I've gone out there, and the youth, the kids that I see like talking to each other, I think you wouldn't be friends if this place didn't exist.
Oh, no kidding.
And I think that's so cool because totally different walks of life and totally different, like, even because it's 12 to 25, right? So you'll have like 17-year-olds and 20-year-olds, and my staff are really good at monitoring that, but they can play board games together. There's nothing, no big deal. And I've just noticed some friendships form at the hub, not probably, I don't think it's outside the space, that they would never have been friends. And it's cool to see them support each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And be like, hey, how'd that go today? You told me about that, and how'd that go? And it's really neat because I feel like these kids wouldn't be friends. Like we have a couple like newcomers to Sudbury that wouldn't have met other kids that came to the space unless they've come there as well, right?
For sure.
So more of like connections being formed that
that's cool.
think is really positive. And I think some things are eye-opening to other youth. Like when we first opened, it was a lot of just Y kids. Like a lot of kids that were playing basketball that were like, oh, what's this place? There's game rooms in here. We hang out. And then they've been spending time in the space and now seeing other youth that are coming in, maybe unhoused youth or people coming in that aren't from the same background as them, and my staff getting an opportunity to kind of educate them about that. It's like, hey, not everyone gets Nikes and backpacks and all these things, and they're like, oh, like that's really interesting because and then they get to know those people and they kind of form like, not always friendships, but an understanding and a respect, and
which is huge.
And more appreciation for their own lives in that sense. So because we have just the full gamut of youth, I mean, you don't know who's going to be in there on what day and what you're going to see or learn. And I think it's been really educational for a lot of youth. And then for some of our youth that are struggling in the community, it gives them a place to go and even just to eat. Like when Sassy closed, that became a big thing where a lot of youth Sassy was the youth shelter. And when that closed, we had a lot of youth be like, where am I going to get like a meal, like a breakfast or a lunch? Or so we amped that up. So lots of people coming in just to eat. I mean, there's so many, I feel like it's hard to pick like stories, but I remember this is just a quick one, but there was a couple that was coming in and they were arguing. Their relationship wasn't going well. They're like teenagers. Relationship's not going great. And she says to him, if you don't go for therapy, this is over. And I was like, that is so cool. What 16-year-old girl would ever be like, go to therapy? Like when I was 16, I wouldn't have even thought of therapy, right? And he was like, fine. And he did. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool.
That's a crazy reaction, man.
Because the goal of the space is to give that easy, relaxed approach, right? You're eating a pogo and then you go and have a conversation with somebody and it's just, you're playing a video game and then you go in for a therapy session. And, a lot of people a lot of the youth have gotten more open about it. Like they'll be like, oh, I have an appointment at 3, I'm going to talk to Irene at 3, to make it more like just
more
socially
normalized,
acceptable. It's like, hey,
sure.
Today was a shitty day and you want to go talk to somebody about it. Or, school's been tough and you want to talk to somebody. No harm in that. So that I thought was kind of a cool win because I'm like, good for her and then good for him.
Yeah.
That he was like, you know what, you're right. I do need help and I'm going to go see how that
relationship.
goes. Yeah. I mean, it didn't, I don't think it panned out, but that's neither here nor there. They're 16, it is what it is. So the amount of stuff we know about, the kids tell us a lot. So it's interesting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you have a kind of final, closing, concluding message you kind of want to share to wrap everything up? It could be, anything from a story from curling that kind of sums up everything, or anything you want to say or touch on before we roll the red carpet and
oh my gosh.
Conclude?
I don't know. I think the good theme of this conversation's been just trust that things happen for a reason. I got my time to be, a high level athlete, and then then I have this cool new career that I get to help people, and
Yeah.
I think things happen for a reason for real.
Yeah.
It might just take time to figure out what that reason is, because my when I ended my competitive career in 2018, it was until 2023 that I found my new purpose. So that's 5 years of not really knowing what my purpose is and trying to find it. And now, like, I can't imagine life without this career, and like every day is a blessing I go in, as stressful as every day is. I used to think making money was everything, and like once curling, fame when in curling and success was everything, and then when that stepped aside, I thought money was everything, and now I'm like, it's not everything at all. Neither of those things are important. It's if I change one kid's life, like that's such a huge thing, and I'm almost seeing my success as the success of others now.
Amazing.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
kind of
cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
This what led me
Love
here.
that for sure. That's awesome. Where can people find you, Amanda? It doesn't have to be in person, but it could be like, where can they find you? Where can they reach out? Where can they connect?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Spesh Curler, SPESH Curler. I guess that's a nickname I've had for a long time in curling. And then the Youth Wellness Hub is YWH Sudbury. Youth Wellness Hub Sudbury. So those are the two things where I guess they could find me. That's what I'm doing now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right on. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for being